Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Edmund Ironside, and today we get to hear from Canutus in Act 2, Scene 3. So Canutus, if you remember, is the Dane who thinks that he should be king and is sort of just waiting for the right moment to lead an attack on Edmund Ironside. In the meantime, though, he sort of listened to some of his advisors and decided that maybe he should try to rule the English people with some degree of kindness or leniency, because nobody likes a tyrant, even though that's sort of the direction that he wanted to go. And he has sworn to help his Danish countrymen fight back their former Anglo-Saxon slaves who have, for some unknown reason, decided to revolt against their former masters and kill them. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have Edmund Ironside, who, when Turkillus and Leofric showed up to surrender to his side, he welcomed them with open arms and embraced them into camp, and he believes that soldiers should be paid and clothed and fed and all this sort of stuff. Canutus went and had dinner at the Earl of Southampton's house and had the Earl parade his daughter out, to whom he proposed within about 30 seconds, even though she might technically be too young to be getting married and becoming queen at this point in her life. So Canutus is maybe a little bit of an icky character, as is Edricus, who has told us several times, including yesterday when he instructed his maybe half-brother to beat his parents out of town so that there isn't any evidence left anymore of who he was and the poor upbringing that he had. But anyway, in Act 2, Scene 3, we're back with Canutus, and he's surrounded by Edricus and the Archbishop and a bunch of people that believe in him, and he is livid that Turkillus and Leofric are gone. He's like, they're gone? How did they get away? How did you let them get away? Where did they go? And Edricus is like, it's because you were too nice to them. And he's like, but we have their pledges, right? We have their eldest sons. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, okay, Suitho, go get the sons and bring them here, and bring an axe and a knife when you come back. So Suitho leaves, and Edricus is like, what do you plan to do? And Canutus is like, I'm gonna cut off their hands and their noses. And Edricus is like, but they are the children of traitors, which makes them traitors, and traitors should be killed. Mutilating them is not death, so this is not the right punishment for them. And Canutus responds by saying, this punishment is worse than loss of life, for it is a stinging corsive to their souls, as often as they do behold themselves lopped and bereft of those two ornaments, which necessary use doth daily crave. Again, it giveth others daily cause to think how traitors should be handled, whereas the memory of present death is quickly buried in oblivion, doing no good but whilst it is in doing. A traitor may be likened to a tree, which being shred and topped when it is green, doth for one twig, which from the same was cut, yield 20 arms, yea, 20 arms for one. But being hacked and mangled with an axe, the root straight dies, and piecemeal rots away. Even so of traitors. Cut me off their heads, still more out of the self-same stock will sprout, but plague them with the loss of needful members, as eyes, nose, hands, ears, feet, or any such. Oh, these are cutting cards unto their souls. Earmark to know a traitorous villain by, even as a brand is to descry a thief. These desperate persons, for example's sake, these ruffians, these all-daring lusty bloods, these court appendices, these madcap lads, these nothing-fearing hotspurs that attend our royal court, tell them of hanging, cheer. They'll say it is a trick or two above ground. Tell them of quartering or the heading axe, they'll swear beheading is a gallant death, and he is a dastard that doth fear to die. But say to them, you shall be branded, or your hands cut off, or your nostrils slit. Then shallow fear makes their quivering tongues to speak abruptly. Rather let us die than we should suffer this vile ignominy. A valiant heart esteemeth light of death, but honorable minds are jealous of honorable names, than to be marked, which robs them of their honors, likewise robs their hearts of joy, and like to irksome owls, they will be bashful to be seen abroad. So, whoa, if we thought Edricus was bad, this is some pretty serious stuff too. This is a little bit reminiscent to me of the not to the death but to the pain speech from The Princess Bride, except in that case we liked Wesley and he was talking about doing it to a bad guy, whereas Canutus here is talking about mutilating the innocent kids of some people who deserted him. Now, it's a little bit unclear how old these kids are. They're maybe old enough that they could fight in the war themselves. They might be young adults, whatever. But still, these were kids that were being held captive and are now going to be mutilated because their dads deserted the camp. But what Canutus is getting at here, he starts out saying, I prefer this because this is worse, that people are going to have to live with this. He's like, think about a tree. If you cut a tree down, you can take one little piece of the tree and plant it and grow a whole new tree, grow 20 new limbs, grow a whole new tree. Think about Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, if you will. We get a whole new Groot. But he's like, if you hack at that same tree and just mangle it and distort it, it's gonna die. And that's what we need to do to traitors. We need to, not just take off the head of the organization because somebody else will step into that place. We need to destroy it altogether. And the way that we do that is by showing the general public that this is what happened to traitors. This is what happens to traitors. That if you see somebody walking down the street that doesn't have a nose or eyes or ears or feet or hands, if you see somebody that's missing a pretty essential body part out in the street, out in public, you know that they're a traitor and they got what they deserved for having been such a traitor. And he's like, just look around. Look around at the general public. All these people, you say to them that they're going to be hanged and they cheer and make a joke out of it. Or you tell them that their head's going to get cut off and they're like, well, that's a worthy death and that's a good way to go. And really brave people shouldn't be afraid to die. But if you say to that same person, I'm going to chop off your hands and your nose, they sing a different tune and they say instead, please kill me instead because I don't want to walk around without hands or without a nose. All of a sudden they become fearful. So he's like, that's why I'm going to do this to these kids, because it doesn't just kill them and have it be over with. This is a shame that will live with them forever, that destroys not only their physical beings but also their mental beings, and they will never leave. They will never go outside. They will never travel. They will never talk to other people because of the shame and fear of being outside so obviously branded traitors. And Edricus is like, oh, these poor kids, it wasn't their choice that their dads left. And Uskatolf is like, yeah, these poor kids, it's not their choice that they're going to lose their hands and their noses. And then the kids are paraded in, and we will get to that tomorrow because we're going to hear a little more fun stuff from Canutus in tomorrow's monologue. So I'll see you then. Mwah.